And, 2 years ago, I introduced Survivor Pool content to TrueDFS. I have a lot of experience doing that, for the NFL, and it got a lot of traction. There's a lot of people that like to play Survivor Pools in the NFL. And then we had Brave Jay Hawk come on this past season, who actually last past 2 seasons, to help with that content. And then there was the NCAA bracket pool, which got a little bit of traction, the Survivor pool for that. And, this year for the first time, I'm doing an MLB Survivor pool. And, what's cool about it is, like anything else, is this has not been solved yet. Like basically NFL Survivor pool has been solved, even though only 5% of the people know that it's been solved. But MLB is like almost new. And when the people that run my NFL Survivor pools fired off, these contests, I'm like, I'm going to do it. And what we're going to do is we're going to have Bobby play also, because Bobby, quite frankly, knows more about baseball than I do. And between my knowledge of Survivor and his of baseball, and the two of us together, we're going to kind of take you guys on a tour of our entries in MLB Survivor. And I just want to give you kind of a summary of what's going on here. So today, it's normally going to be Monday morning, because the way MLB Survivor pools work is that you have to pick for the week one team, now follow this, to have at least a 500 record, okay? They don't have to have a winning record. They have to have at least a 500 record for that week. And the week usually goes Monday to Sunday. The only reason we're here today is because this one pool that's ultra sadistic, they wanted to start right on the Thursday. So to give a Thursday through Sunday, we really just try to like gut everybody right off the bat. So it is what it is. So we're going to do basically 11 a.m. every Monday, kind of a Survivor pool video where we talk about our picks and lead everybody through it. And I encourage everybody to go into the Survivor pool Discords and give your comments on strategy and everything, because quite frankly, I don't know how to play MLB Survivor. I have like some instincts on how to play, but between the two of us, we'll try to figure it out kind of along the way. I imagine the concept is the same. You want to pick teams that rate to win, but you also want to have teams left, later on in the season. So the first thing before we get into it, I want to show you what we're looking at. So this is our pool on Run Your Pool, and you'll see that it's 180 expected entries so far. Already 163 of them put their picks in. So just to kind of lead you on a tour for this, right, Bobby? So here's like the make your pick thing. This is where you make your pick, and it'll keep a record of all that you picked before. Now, what's cool about this one is it'll tell you how many games the teams have for that week, and we'll get back into why that's important in a minute. Yep. And then this pick summary here, this will show you after picks lock who everybody picked, okay? So you'll know who to sweat and who to anti-sweat and stuff like that. And there'll be different reports. I hear will be pick availability. Once everybody picks a team, it'll let you know which teams are still available. So this has become very it doesn't look like much now, but as the season goes on, it's going to be really important. So the first thing that I think that we both agree on is, because of the way the pool works, that you have to have a 500 record or better. I think really the first screen for a team is one to have an even number of games for the week, because it's a hell of a lot easier to go 3-3 than 4-3. You know what I mean? So that's like the first screen. And then honestly, we'll just kind of talk through these things, because like some teams are going to have a lot of series with really weak teams, depending on what division they're in. So maybe that's a team you can save or whatever. But Bobby, tell me what we talked about a little bit yesterday. Like you talked to me about for like 5 seconds that you thought that it's probably not you shouldn't be too much of a hero in week one. What's your thoughts?
I just feel like nothing is certain. It's one of the most diverse. Like this is one of the few years we've had in the past 10 years where there's no team projected to win more than 96 games. There's nobody projected to win more than 95 games. That's just like not been the case. The Dodgers alone have been projected to win over 100 games basically every year that we've ever started to talk DFS or done anything. It's just more diversity. There's just a lot of teams in a very like similar playing field that's going to be really hard to manage. So I think that the idea is really to survive the first 4-game stretch, because we really are in unknown territory. We also don't expect starting pitchers to go very long. especially in their first 3 starts of the year. So my sort of take is maybe maybe like a little bit too nitty, a little too tight, a little too close to the chest. I just would rather not eliminate myself early while attaching myself to these, so-called SP1s that aren't going to be throwing more than like 75, 85 pitches. And I don't think you're getting the same, the odds on these games. Like it's another thing I would like to bet on. I want to bet the overs in every game. And I want to bet that pitchers don't make it out of the 6th inning very, very often. So I just think that like just in the name of sort of advancing, I think that the idea is just to basically take the safest route for week 1 because it's only 4 games. You're not really getting any separation anyway. 4 games in baseball means you could be the best team in the history of baseball. You could lose 4 games in a row. So it doesn't mean anything. So I think that trying to take the safest route is my idea of what I would think to do early on.
Well, also, I'm thinking like strategically also, it's not as important this week as others is we have to really keep an eye on the rotations. Like this is what I was thinking about as we're maybe more towards next week or whatever. But if you're going to pick a team, you want to get that first win. In other words, you want to make sure that you have your best pitchers pitching during your 4-game stretch or your 6-game stretch.
Yeah.
So I don't think you ever are going to want to take a team that's running their, like, I guess, 4th best pitcher. You know what I mean? Because it's going to take like a couple of games before you get to your first one. So you probably don't want to do that. And I almost don't want to play someone taking their 5th best pitcher because even though like you're going to get 1 and 2 coming up, we have to look at how the pitching rotation might play it out. Like if we have a team that has kind of a weak SP5, even though they might have good SP1s and 2s, they might be those SP1s and 2s might be going up against the other team's SP1 and 2. So we have to kind of think about that. We don't have to think about it now because everybody's going with SP1s, but when everything kind of shuffles and people are kind of like, sometimes you get the SP4 against the SP1 and the SP2 against. It's gonna require a little bit of planning. The other thing that we really, this is like so huge. We have to be on top of the weather. Okay. Yeah. Every rain out is a legit horror show. Okay. So
which is great news for us because that's the same thing for DFS anyway. So
right. But it's worse because I think unfortunately what we're gonna have to do is before we pick a team, it's not even going to look at the weather for that next day. We have to, I think, look at the AccuWeather for each city and see if there's like a threat of rain. If there's no weather coming for Monday, but there's a weather forecast where it's going to rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think unfortunately we have to put in the effort. You know what I mean? Like even like a cursory like AccuWeather Chicago or something like that, or AccuWeather Cincy or something like that. Just to see, like, because we say, oh, there's no weather Monday, we're going to play this. The next thing you know, it's 3 days in a row of rain that everybody knew about. We're going to feel like suckers. Okay?
Well, also, like, even if you happen to get a doubleheader mixed in one of the other days, doubleheaders are much more high variance than a regular normal start. So, they just generally go about 50-50. Whereas the home team would usually win, closer to 60% of the time. So I totally agree. I think it's very important. Fortunately, like for the early, like I looked at a little bit of the weather, again, it's going to be a little tricky. Like with the weird part is like the biggest scary spot is San Diego for the first weekend. That's very, very strange. But even that, I don't think is any real danger. At least at first look, like, and I could be wrong. That was just my first attempt at a weather look. Showed for the next 4 days that everything looks most likely to get in. If there was any trouble, it would probably be in San Diego. Outside chance in your area and outside chance in Chicago for Saturday.
I'll tell you something else, by the way. Those of you that are watching the Discord, if you guys are so inclined to help us with this, so one thing that we do have access to, and this is what's different than NFL Survivor Pool. Like in NFL Survivor Pool, you have projected win odds for every game the whole season. Like so you can look out 15 games, whatever. All I have in front of me is like the win odds for game 1 of these series. So if anybody wants to either find or create kind of like a map based on probable starting pitchers for like a week, like each week, that'd be obviously extremely helpful. Like if I knew, like I see, like for example, like Dodgers are Urias versus whoever, who is it against Gallen, right? If we knew who was going to be the starters for for those teams in the next 3 games, we could kind of project what their win odds would be. And you know what I mean? Like if there was somebody like Sports Projections, the guy we had on the other day, like he could probably like do this, like and figure out literally the chances of our team being 500 or better, based on starting pitchers. I can't do that. I don't know how. I mean, I would know how, but it's like honestly way too much work to figure out.
Right. So I actually think that the most overrated part of this is starting pitching. So I just want to go into this like really quickly, especially early in the season. I just think that it's the biggest edge in baseball. It's where you see the crazy, teams as 3-1 favorites, which basically should never be the odds in baseball.
Well, the fact is though, so here's the thing is that what this comes down to, and this is what Survivor Pool comes down to, is you have to accept like win odds, right? And whether the win odds come from the starting pitching or because the starting pitching fishy or whatever it is, that's where we're starting. So I was more interested in like what a team's kind of like money line is going to be,
right?
Things that we can't see right now. Like what's the Dodgers going to be against Arizona in Game 2? What's San Diego going to be in Colorado in Game 2? Because we know what they're going to be right now because we see what the win odds are, right? So I think that's something that if somebody wants to engage in a project, they could do that, and that would be helpful. So the other thing, again, this also goes with weather as well. Obviously, domes are important because then you don't have to worry about weather at all. And I don't know. Did you think of anything else aside from what we talked about as far as like overall things to think about, or should we just kind of get into it? Or?
Well, I guess that like I did, but like I sort of even think it leads me into what I want to do for this first week.
So let's talk about it. So this is what I did. So I emailed Bobby, and what I did was I narrowed it down to the 5 series that played 4 games because again, you want to get those even games, and those were going to be either White Sox Houston, Cleveland Seattle, San Diego Colorado, Mets Miami, and Dodgers Arizona. And then I followed up with him by sending him the 3 at least Game 1's money lines, and I had the Dodgers at -170, the Padres at -215, and Houston at -155. The other 2 were pick'ems. So I guess my inclination, before you tell me what you would do, my inclination is to X out the 2 pick'em games, unless you had a reason to not do that, and to choose from the 3 3 favorites. What were you thinking?
Yeah, that's essentially what I was thinking makes the most sense. Like side note for next week or whatever, assuming you survive or whatever, I think these are the times you want to start using like Tampa Bay type teams. Their pitchers are only going to go so far anyway. Guys who aren't going to they're extended. So their starting pitching is more valuable this time of year than other teams because their pitchers are used to throwing only 80 to 90 pitches at tops anyway. You know what I mean? That's just how they treat their pitchers. So Tampa Bay as a team you should be using in an early format. That was one thing that stood out to me, sort of. But the fact that they're playing an odd number of games means I think that you leave them out for this time.
The other thing, though, I want you to start getting in the zone to think about is all that stuff that you're mentioning about like Tampa's better early in the season or that.
No. It's really important what I'm saying. I'm saying
what I'm saying is that stuff isn't that in the money line already.
Well, it's written into the projections to some extent, yes, but my point is I take umbrage. I don't agree with the actual odds on the way that the baseball games are treated early in the season.
Okay.
The run line, like these guys aren't going to go out there and throw 110 pitches on opening day. It's just not happening. Right. We haven't seen it happen in 10 years. It's by the way of the past. I don't buy these lines. So I just completely think that they're wrong. If it was me, in general, I would usually be saying, hey, bet the under because the weather is bad and everything. We don't know what's going to happen with this pitch clock. There's a lot of things that are going to be completely different than what we've seen in past years, which is why teams that that basically play the same way all the way through the season, like Tampa Bay, that's why I would say that they're a team that I would like to use earlier rather than later if they have.
So this is an interesting point that you're bringing up that Brave, but Jayhawk and I talk about all the time in NFL is that whether you should like put your own kind of opinion on what the line should be over what the actual line is. Now in the NFL, the lines are just so freaking tight,
Yeah.
that to do that is just asking for trouble. But look, if we're right, and Bobby has a little bit of like, this is why Bobby's part of this, has a little extra insight above and beyond the actual money line, then we could play teams that could be below our own without even, you know what I mean? Because like, let's just say, I'm not saying this as an example, but let's just say for whatever reason that you thought that San Diego was weaker than their line indicated, right? Then we could fade them when everybody else is going to play them. And likewise, if you thought, for example, that Houston was like more likely to win than whatever their line indicated, then we could play them when less people will be playing them. So I do think that baseball is much less efficient than NFL as far as lines go. And this will be a cool, now I say testament, but this will be a cool way to combine both my kind of like survivor knowledge with Bobby's like kind of opinions on baseball and see kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to think about is to what extent this 4-game thing makes a difference. In other words, like if there was a week where, say, the Dodgers were playing 4 games against Colorado at home and then 3 games against whoever, the Tigers at home.
Right.
And then I don't think I care too much about the even money thing, about the even games. I don't think. So I
don't know. I think you're right on. I think you're right on point with the even games. I think that's the biggest thing you don't want to mess with.
Okay.
I think you want the even number of games if you can have it. Every now and then, there might be a time or two where you have to in the season.
Right. Like if there's only one spot that's like an even number of games, and they're going to be pick them all 6 games. That's a rough spot.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think of the 3 matchups I identified? What do you think of these matchups?
Well, yeah, didn't you have the 5 that you identified, right?
Well, yeah, I thought 2 of them were pick them. I thought we were Xing them out. But you tell me.
Yeah. I think that's probably. I mean, look, I do think that the Dodgers worry me a little bit this year. To be honest with you, as a Dodger fan, I just don't think this is the same like just dominant, beat the hell out of everyone. They've been clearly the best team in baseball, basically like 16 out of the last 20 years at least. And I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. And I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out. So I actually only have the one email. I have a couple emails from you, but I only have the one with the 5 teams. I don't have anything since then. You referred to it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, I emailed you at 8:53 this morning.
Yeah, I've got that one.
Said Cleveland.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it says Cleveland, Seattle game 1, basically pick them.
Yeah.
Mets in Miami also pick them. But I have Houston at minus. This is just for game 1. Houston at minus 155, Dodgers at minus 170, and San Diego at 215. So, like for me, like if I were just wanting to survive and did whatever, I would just say take San Diego. But I don't know, is the San Diego are they gonna be weaker games 2, 3, and 4? You know what I mean? Like who? Like are we worried about Colorado like throwing? So I mean, it seems the safest, right? No.
It does seem the safest, and it just makes me feel like I get nervous even saying that with baseball. That's how it's just
that's what makes this hard. I mean,
yeah, exactly. It's a very nerve-wracking thing. San Diego would be I think the odds-on like favorite that makes the most sense, but for sure for definitely each game of this series against Colorado. I also think this similarly about the Dodgers, but when you're playing in division, and most of these are in division to start the season, but not all of them. It's kind of tricky because it really it feels like it does sort of even the playing field a little bit, especially early in the season. So it's that's my only concern. Having said that, I don't really have another option that makes enough sense.
Yeah, so we'll analyze all three of these. So like for Houston, for example, they're like they're the lowest favorite, at least game one of the three favorites.
Right.
And I guess I guess the way to put this is who am I more afraid of, like secondary Colorado pitchers, or having to face like Dylan Cease, you know what I mean, or whoever, or Giolito, or second or third White Sox pitchers. I guess that I'd be more concerned about the White Sox, about having to beat them than having to beat the Rockies.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much on the money. Like I feel much more with I feel much more nervous about facing the White Sox staff. I don't think I want to go against the White. Like I'm not even sure the Astros are better than the White Sox.
Right.
I just think the odds are telling us early in the season because that's what we're used to. The White Sox are a team that could win the World Series this year. Like they have talent. So I don't think I don't want to load up on Houston right off the bat.
Let me ask you a question. What about so based on, again, this is baseball, all kinds of variant, but is there a team that, based on your opinion, is like clearly the weakest team in baseball?
Oh, I thought you were going to go the other way with it.
No, and I'll tell you why in a minute.
I think that there's going to be some that sort of reveal themselves, but I don't like the Nationals, A's should be really bad.
Right. So the point is that to identify who the best team is not relevant really, because you can only pick them once. But what people do in football, for example, is they will basically stream against the weak team. So basically whoever is playing, let's say the Nationals or whatever, like that's one strategy, is to just and that's like, listen, you have to take 30 teams, right? Ostensibly to win this thing. Okay. Especially this one where you have no strikes. So you're going to have to, probably take some, bottom level teams at some point. So usually what ends up being good plays, which, and then you have to weigh it against popularity, is let's just say that the Reds are like a middle of the road team, maybe, and they were playing like Washington, like that would be a good time to take Cincinnati, like for example, seeing as you might have to take them anyway. But the point you're making, I think, is really valid about actually being a little safe in week one, because here's the thing about NFL, which I talk about with Jayhawk a lot. Like these are what you have to balance. You have to balance win odds now, basically win equity, and immediate EV, which we don't know what popularity is going to be from this pool, not even close. And you have to balance that against future value, like whether you're going to want a team in the future. And what I always say is that the further out the future is, like the less not important it is, but the less predictable it is. And I think what's interesting is with baseball, like I think it's even more so. I mean, you're not really gonna know for like a couple of weeks. I think, like who's great, who's the worst team. I think.
Well, I think it may take a lot longer than that.
Yeah. So I think that it's not
this year. I do think you have. I actually think that what the A's and Nationals are doing, like we should expect them to be significantly worse. I mean, for what it's worth, they're both projected to have less than 60 wins. Nobody that's
actually really important.
Nobody else is projected to have less than 66. That's a big difference, even. Like, you know what I mean? That's the 59.5 for the A's, 59 for the Nationals. They're significantly worse than everyone else when it comes to projections.
So like for example, right? So this
7-game difference.
So it's possible that in this short week, like the Braves are against the Nationals. This could be the best team in baseball versus the worst. It's possible, right?
Possible.
But it's 3 games,
right?
And so you lose one game of the first 2, you're already in the freaking. You're already relying on who's that Brave guy that like gets wild sometimes?
The young guy.
Yeah.
What's it? Why can't I think of his Spencer Strider?
Yeah, then you already relying on Spencer Strider. You know what I mean? And to go out week 1 with on one game is rough. So, but that is something that should consider. Like each week we should always look at who say the Nationals are playing and who's the second team you mentioned?
A's.
Who the A's are playing this week? Who do the A's play? They have 3 games against the Angels. Okay, so this would be a good example. Like if this were a 4-game set, and it was a tough week, and we wanted to try to like sneak someone in, like to play something like the Angels. If we could get like an Ohtani start, you know what I mean? Like, he's still on the Angels, right?
Yeah.
Okay, who knows? So,
Yeah.
if you can get like an Ohtani, let's say you got the Ohtani start in a 4-game series against Oakland, that would be like a good time to burn the Angels,
Right.
Right. Now, again, we don't know. We really don't know how everybody's going to be playing. Like, I can tell you everybody's playing in NFL Survivor. I have no idea what people are going to do, but I'd like to think that we're going to know those kind of trends pretty early also, because I'll tell you this, like I would hope and imagine that all of the ownership is going to go on the 3 teams I mentioned, like either the Astros, the Dodgers, or the Padres. I would imagine. If not, I think that people might do something like I just mentioned, like go to the Braves. Just say, listen, I don't care about the 3-game thing. I'm just going to take the best team against the worst team, and that's so. I'll be very
up leverage in another way too. Like the best team will show themselves over a longer period of games. You don't want to use them right away.
Right. That's true. That's correct.
That's my personal
That's future value. Right.
So like. So I think you have a really clear, if you needed to survive only this week, I think you have a very clear decision of what you would do. I think it would be pretty simply like, and look, it's gonna. I'm not saying this will win every time, but like you have the biggest win gap between the 2 teams projected for the 4 games. So anybody with an even number of games is San Diego and Colorado. Colorado's projection, I actually wouldn't be surprised if they're much better than their projection. I actually think they're a good bet to go over their projected 66 wins. But San Diego, you have as one of the top teams in baseball. It's a 4-game series in San Diego to start the season. Yep. I think that's what I would ride with. Now, I just said the thing about the weather, but it's really not enough of a concern to where I'm going to go there.
Well, let's get Snell get the first win and then have the rest of them raid out. That's fine too.
That'll work as well, right? But it's hilarious we're talking about this because between San Diego and LA, I think we went like 40 years without having a game rained out.
Right.
And then like all of a sudden, like the last few years, it's like, oh, it just happens every day. Like
right. So, and the other thing, again, we're gonna have to get on board here. It's like, listen, neither of us are sure what's gonna happen in baseball, and neither of us are sure what's the correct strategy. We're just gonna have to agree on something and go with it. There's just no regrets. There's no like Bobby talked me out of this or she's talked me out of that. We're grown-ups here. We're gonna agree with it and just freaking roll with it. Yeah. I happen to now there are gonna be weeks where we end up debating, and we have to like either flip a coin or do whatever. This particular 4-game set, we're not gonna be debating. I think I'm totally with you. We'll take the Padres and hope that Snell is not 3-0 on the first batter. Okay, because he's 3-0 on the first batter, I'm not going to be happy. But I think we're both in agreement. That's the right idea.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I.
Here's another thing, just so you know, from the way this site works. So I clicked. My pick has been saved. So now you can go back here and you can see it, and it doesn't lock you in until it locks. So we could, like, if we wanted to, we can go back and change this like literally all day long. Okay. So you're not like locked in once you do it. Now the other thing you could do.
Wait, hold on. We put Colorado as the team.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. So you can take out Colorado.
Well, no, but we meant San Diego. We want San Diego against Colorado.
Right. So we're gonna pick.
Yeah.
Where is San Diego? San Diego, 4 games, pick saves. So what you could do also,
big move if we made Colorado.
So what you could do always is you could pick in advance, like all the weeks, and it's kind of cool in NFL to see how it would map out, to see who you use every week.
Right.
And you could always like take it off or whatever. It's also good to do sometimes, just in case you forget. You used to have something, but we're not forgetting. Trust me. This is the way we do. And you'll see also, by the way, check this out. So April 3rd for that Monday, it's actually a 2:10 thing, but we're going to do it at 11 anyway, just so there's always consistency. Yeah. And we do content anyway, the 12 and 1 anyway, so we'll forget. So we'll do it at 11. So that's going to be the Padres, and we are going to be, and we're in. So we'll come back on. Well, everybody's going to root for Blake Snell today. Everybody's rooting for the Padres. please go into the Discord and comment or do whatever. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. Again, we have to figure out how to make this more accessible, like you said. But I'll save this to the YouTube channel, or you want to do it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll save it.
Yeah, but make sure you save it to the Survivor playlist.
To the Survivor playlist, right?
We have a Survivor playlist.
Yes.
And so it'll go up in there. And we'll get after it.
Yeah, and then we've got regular DFS in what 30 minutes that we're gonna do.
Yep. Well, I'll see you like we can even start earlier. Remember, we gotta go through like all these games.
We can go. You know, I'm ready to turn this off and fire it right up if you want to.
Yeah. Let me grab a coffee. We'll do it. We'll do a start in like five. Well, do you want
Yeah,
to
do my thing too? Yeah. That's good. 5-10 minutes is good.
Yeah. Actually, let's make it 11:45.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
All right.